What is knowledge? What is reasonable? Who is God? These questions are the base that many philosophers have built their beliefs upon. Because these core questions are so broad, the interpretations are endless. An important philosopher that is remembered for his interpretations and influence on further philosophy was David Hume from Scotland. David Hume, son of Joseph and Catherine Hume, was born on April 26, 1711, on the north side of Edinburgh, Scotland. His father died when David Hume was 2, leaving him, his elder brother, and a sister under the care of his mother, who devoted herself to educating her children. Hume attended the University of Edinburgh at the age of 13 to pursue a career in law. Here, however, Hume developed, as he says, an
aversion to everything but the pursuit of philosophy and general learning.
Coincidentally, Hume grew up during the Scottish Enlightenment, a time outpouring of intellectual and scientific accomplishments. Scotland at the time had poor public health, parallel to that of England, meaning that there was much need for improvement in Scottish society. Can what Hume was exposed to every day influence his philosophical views? Hume, as well as other philosophers including John Locke and George Berkeley, were considered empiricists. This meant that they believed that knowledge depended on one's 5 senses, like sight or smell. Hume studied Western philosophy and read numerous books regarding it. Captivated by philosophical thought, Hume decided to be more engaged with philosophy and decided to do an experimental method instead, like Isaac Newton's, but rather than science experiments, it was human experiments. Hume placed humans in his examples and theories of empiricism. So why did he believe that the senses were key to our knowledge? Was it because the senses he experienced himself in Scotland were unbearable, thus deciding that what he saw was what he knew? Would knowledge about life be different depending on what they sense elsewhere? Hume also decided that our knowledge begins with a simple perception, but we, as humans, turn it into our own complicated and subjective ideas. Therefore, Hume believed that knowledge is subjective to the individual. Watch as Andrew Marr further explains the theory that Hume believes our senses develop our knowledge.
Here we are inside the brain, which Hume said was empty, remember, except for all the impressions that we'd drunk in from the outside world. If we use the inside of the camera obscura here as a kind of metaphor for the mind, it's easy to understand what Hume was talking about. Now, outside, there were the impressions, and inside, here they are again. There's St. Giles, and over here, the castle. And if I knit them together, combine them together, I can create more complicated ideas. The idea in this case of Edinburgh, or the idea possibly of a morning in Edinburgh, or more complicated ideas, but based on those simple impressions which constantly bombard my mind.
Hume then ponders on the question, what is reasonable? Since knowledge is developed from what we experience through our own senses, how can we tell what knowledge is correct? Does that make everything we know biased? Can assumptions of the future be accurate through our knowledge? This leads to Hume's problem of induction. Hume believed that because our knowledge is subjective, there is no true knowledge. One cannot make true predictions based on their knowledge alone. For example, if you have 100 apples and they were all green, can someone correctly predict that all the following apples would be the same color? To Hume, this is not true. But to one visualizing this, that is the simple observation they see. Then on their own, they turn it into a more complicated idea that all apples produced in the future will be the same color.
God's power is infinite. Whatever he wills is executed. But neither man nor any other animal is happy. Therefore he does not will their happiness. Epicurus' old questions are yet unanswered. Is he both able and willing to prevent evil?
Hume's denial in what one believes in further opened the question, who is God? The so-called God, creator of the earth, was also a development in the human mind. So then, is God real? If so, who is he? So this rejection of true knowledge meant Hume was indirectly an atheist, who rejected the religion of the time period. He believed that heaven and hell is a reflection to human so-called knowledge on good versus evil. Hume says that the errors in religion are dangerous, those in philosophy only ridiculous. Here, Hume is expressing how the denial of God would bring a great deal of disappointment, hatred, and rejection. He also points out that, at the time, people most likely looked down upon being a philosopher. Thus, indirectly, he is posing ideas that rejected religion. So, who was God in Hume's point of view? I guess that in Hume's terms, if God is there, God is something us humans cannot comprehend. Hume died from cancer in 1776. Hume was a heavy influence on Adam Smith of the time. Atheism had become a real concept, and philosophers out of Hume's time era had referred to his work. Therefore, David Hume has played an essential role in the developing philosophy of Scotland in the 18th century, as well as the global philosophy altogether.